Hello? Is this thing on? Hello? Well, guys, I'm back at ya with another little project. Let me know if you like my videos and if I should keep doing them or if they're just annoying. Give me a like on Facebook or give me a comment. I would appreciate that to know whether I should keep doing these or not. I have created a YouTube channel. You can always subscribe to that. Just my name, Dan Herlihy. So go to YouTube and look up Dan Herlihy. Maybe one of my videos may help. But anyways, today's little project, well, little project is, unfortunately, my poor neighbor, his lawn tractor that he just bought a year or two ago, the engine blew on it. And he sees my videos and said, hey, you want a little project? So with some shop.com isotonics and $100, I picked up his Craftsman, I don't know, T8000. I don't know, it was like a $2,200 lawnmower when he bought it a couple years ago. But now it needs an engine. So I've been on YouTube myself, looking to how to switch these out. Boy, I guess if I can do a Mercedes transmission, I should be able to tackle this one. If you live in the Buffalo area, it has been raining for weeks now. Our lawn is atrocious. We can't even get to it because it's so wet. So I figured I would tackle this today. I'm going to pause this because I did pick up an engine that I will talk about. All right, so this is the engine that I found on Facebook Marketplace. No, maybe Craigslist. This guy was actually out of Wales, and he basically rebuilds engines and sells them, or I guess you can have him rebuild yours. But this was a Kohler 24 horsepower. The one that's in there now is a 22 horsepower, so it's a little bit of an upgrade that he has rebuilt, that he put up for sale. So I'm hoping this switches out without too much hassle. I think it's almost identical to what I have. A few little changes, but my goal is to switch this out. So we'll see if it's an easy project or becomes a major project. Oh, and you know, private message me if you want the guy's number. I forget his name. I think it was Leon, but he's in Wales, New York. You know, and this was like $350. So, you know, it's only a couple years old. $350 for a working engine is quite reasonable as far as I'm concerned. So, message me if you want his number. And we'll go from there. So to start with, one of the coolest things, I do have faith now that people are actually making improvements and upgrades, right? So, you know, most of the hoods are on these tractors are always in the way. The coolest thing with these is because of the way they have these hitches now. That lift. All right, so after taking a little time just staring at it, again, this is the motor that's in there. Does not look like it's going to be that hard. Bracket for the gas line. I'm actually going to use this fuel pump because the one I bought does not have a fuel pump. They're only like $25 online, so I'm going to transfer that over. So I'm just going to keep all that and just take this line off and take the rest off and just set it on the side. On this side, same thing. The one I bought needs a starter, so hopefully that'll transfer over. I don't know, I guess there's 9 teeth and 10 teeth, so I'm assuming and hoping they're gonna transfer over. So this wire harness stays. There is one wire on this machine that's not on the engine I bought, so I'm gonna need to track that down. But mostly there's only 4 or 5 wires. So one wire goes to the carburetor gas kill switch or solenoid that just shuts off the fuel when you turn the key off. One obviously goes to the starter. One goes to the alternator to recharge the battery. And I need to track down where the other wire or two will go to. This is just the throttle cable. And in this newer one, there's not even a choke. It's built in with all this crazy mechanism. So only one throttle cable, which looks right. Loosen it and take it off of here, and all this should already be on the other engine. And then even these mufflers, I guess once you loosen them up, it literally just pulls out of it. It doesn't even stay in there. Oh yeah, the new engine does not have a muffler, so I will have to transfer these mufflers over to the new engine. Other than that, then it's 4 bolts that hold this engine on to the actual frame, which again should be not that big of a deal. And then obviously this pulley system, which is 1 major bolt. I'll use an impact wrench probably to get that off, and that's it. It should just lift right off. So again, looks and sounds easier than it may be, but to me, I gotta be honest, I've never actually changed an engine or a motor on a lawnmower. I've certainly worked on plenty, but I've never actually switched them out. And after going through it all, it is way less intimidating than I thought. And that's when I'm changing a 7000 series for a 7000 series, even though they're 2 horsepower difference. You know, there's not much. It should be pretty almost identical. So people that are changing a Brigant Stratton, you know, or, you know, a different type motor, right? You know, sure, there's definitely going to be a lot more to it, but it also still seems like it's only, right, a throttle cable and matching up those lines, because every one's going to have some kind of probably fuel cutoff. It's going to have a coil cutoff. It's going to have an alternator, and then a starter. So most of them only have 4 or 5 wires. So it's really just matching up those 4 or 5 wires. At least that's easier said than done. But, you know, if you can match those wires up, I think they're all pretty much the same, because, you know, unlike a transmission, you know, you don't have to have it exactly the same because it runs on a belt system, right? So any slop or any inconsistencies, it runs off a belt, not a gear necessarily. And you know, you want to make sure any motor you switch it out with has the same shaft. So this is a 1 inch by 3 inch. So I'm assuming the other shaft will be the same. But I gotta be honest, I think the #1 thing really is probably that shaft. As long as a motor has the same shaft size as the one you're taking out, other than that, it's 4 or 5 wires, you know, adjusting the throttle to make sure it would work. And then the fuel line. But honestly, that's all they seem to be. So I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I probably would have switched out some motors earlier in life if I had kind of looked at them. Maybe the older ones are harder, but this one looks pretty good. So I will keep checking in. So step 1 is done. I have just pulled off this fuel pump. Line came out easy. The vacuum hose came out very easy down there. I just took off the mount, and as long as this all stays higher than the gas tank, it won't leak out. So and I have to say something about that. My Toros have the gas tank under the seat and the battery here. This one has the gas tank here and the battery under the seat. I really like that setup, mainly because a lot of times you run into, if you watch my last video, you know, I had to change the fuel pump on my Toro. It's probably possible that because the gas tank is above the carburetor, you know, that literally this could probably run on gravity as far as getting fuel to the carburetor. Certainly a pump helps, but you know, on my other one, the gas tank was below the whole engine or same level. So you always need a fuel pump to be able to pump fuel to the carburetor, where again, this is above the carburetor. So even if my fuel pump didn't work, it wouldn't surprise me if this still would run, because by gravity the gas would still make it there. So, but step 1 done. The fuel pump is off and just hanging on the side. And there's really nothing else I can even see I need to do on this side of the engine. So I'm going to unhook the throttle and then I guess go underneath because I'm already on my way. Okay, so looking on the front, I have this vent line from the gas tank. I'm assuming just kind of a vent or overflow that goes up in there. I'm just going to disconnect that, but I noticed the other engine does not have that, so I don't know if that's connected to the carburetor or bypasses it all. I guess I'll have to see. That is a little bit different than the engine that I'm putting in. What happens with that vent line? Okay, I have unhooked the vent line from just that little hose that goes up to the gas tank. I'm going to unhook this throttle cable, and that just loops into that. Yes, I've unplugged the starter, but I'm actually going to keep that on because I need to switch the starter over. It's just those 2 bolts, it looks like, so that shouldn't be too hard. And I'm just going to leave the starter hanging. Pull off the throttle, pull off the starter, pull off the throttle cable, and that looks like all I need to do on this side. So I pulled the throttle off, which was a piece of cake, so that just came right out. This is really just unplugged, but again, I'm going to have to match up. This has, looks like 5 wires going in, where my new engine only has 4, so I need, or actually it has 6, I'm sorry, so I gotta figure out what that extra one is, or 4, I'm sorry. So then again, I just pulled these 2 bolts off. They look the same, but I'll keep those in order. This just dropped, literally fell right down, so I don't think I even need to take the cover off. So I'm just gonna leave this hanging, and now get underneath and get to those 4 bolts and the main pulley. So we'll see what that looks like. So I did finally get this bolt out. It came out hard really the whole way. I'm assuming it's designed that way because the threads look okay, but maybe somebody could tell me. And it's probably just because of this Loctite stuff they used. But there is no question that cranked out hard the entire way out. Now the trick will be to drop that. I don't know, I might try to pull the engine up and use the engine and lever, to kind of crank it off. I don't know, I gotta figure out how to get this down. I see there is some kind of key there. I don't know if that's for holding for what I just did, or gonna help me pull that off, or again, I might still have to get a pulley puller that goes in there and then brings it down here. I might have to screw a couple holes to get some kind of pulley system to pull it out. So that's what I'm working on next. Again, the 4 bolts, right, those are already out. Those were a piece of cake. Took nothing, plenty of room to get to them. So the 4 bolts that hold the engine itself were absolutely a piece of cake to take out. So it will really be this pulley. I mean, again, this lawnmower has like 40 hours on it, so it hopefully won't be too hard, but that might be the most time-consuming part of this whole project. Okay, so the engine is loose. I've actually pulled it up a little bit. You can see it's already spaced, so it moves pretty easy. So this muffler has got to come off, but this plate's obviously in the way. It looks like there's only a screw here and one on this side, and I take that off and this whole thing should drop out of the way. So that's what I'm going to. So that's exactly what happened. I took those 2 bolts off. This dropped right down and comes out of these hooks, and that is completely out of place, and it looks just like that. I mean, it just sits in there, so it's not held in place or anything other than just sitting in place. So I should be able to just pick this motor up directly now, and pretty much I do have to change the muffler over, but drop the other engine in, the muffler pipes, because the engine I bought doesn't have them, so to transfer those over. Okay, so here is the original motor out. Here is the motor that's going to go in. I have it leaning up that way so I can take these. It's a Torex, so hopefully that won't be too bad. Hopefully take these off and put them on here. The shaft, hopefully this looks like a spacer. Yep, it is. So that's just a spacer. So I will put that spacer on here. That looks like the same size, so hopefully I'm good there. So I just need to transfer these muffler pipes over, and hopefully I'm ready to put her back in. So far so good. Both those muffler pipes went right on. Gaskets were still good. Again, this is the replacement motor. This is a 24 horse where my other one was a 22. I got a vacuum line. Got to put the gas line on. So here still is the gas line. I got to see where this vacuum line goes in. Gotta get that on, because this one does not seem to have it. Maybe it doesn't, just doesn't have it. I don't know. Just switched over anyways. You can see the old motor that is blown is nice and clean, because again, barely has any hours on it at all. And I'll do another video. I'm gonna actually tear this apart. This cylinder has compression. This one, the piston is not moving, so it definitely has at least a broken rod. And depending on how long you ran it, how much more damage. But if you, I put a screwdriver in there and turned it over, and that piston does not move correctly. So I'm going to transfer over that gas line and the vacuum line, and I should be all set. So I'll let you know. So here's the damage to that rebuild engine. It looks like he's all welded it. I did not notice that when I bought it, so I am hoping that he just knew what he was doing and did a good job. I don't know. I'm typically not afraid of those, because I find that welds, obviously, if they're done right, are then stronger than the original. But I guess we will see. I have the motor in place. I need to lean, see the keyholes, the keys there, and that bottom pulley. I got to rotate that and line it up. I did put the starter in place loosely. I've got the board under there so that I can work, and then hopefully just kind of be able to pull the board out. I got the muffler pipes on, so those, as I move this and line it up, should pop into the correct holes. This one does not have a vacuum line like the other one, so that vacuum line from the gas tank I'll just put up here. I don't know, I think some of these models had their professional they call it air systems and, you know, oil filters and who knows what. But so far so good. Everything else lined up, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so I had that lined up, and the pulley slid into the gear. I don't know what you might call it, but shaft very easily. So that's lined up and started. I just need to line up this more and drop it in, pull my piece of wood out, and the motor should be on. So I need to then hook up the cables, and I guess I'm very ecstatic how it's gone so far. Well, I have to admit, I'm pretty excited. I have the new engine mounted. Exhaust pipe slipped right in. 4 bolts mounted right up. The pulley went in very easily. You could tell I bent that too much, so I'm an amateur, that's for sure. But 4 bolts went right in, didn't even have to do anything to line it up. I think between this and the muffler pipes, it lined everything else up. So if you can't tell from my voice, I'm kind of giddy, because so far so good. But again, this is pretty much putting the same engine in that I took out. I had a Kohler7000 22 horse that I took out. This is a Kohler 24 horse, so they're pretty much the same engine. At least that's what it seems like so far. Hopefully it runs, but I got some more things. I gotta figure out these 4 wires. I have to finish mounting the starter. It's in there. I just gotta tighten it. I gotta put the gas line, the fuel pump, and oil, spark plugs, boy, I'm in good shape so far, so almost done. Alright, so I hooked up the throttle cable. Of course, I dropped the little rubber end that protects it, so if I find that somewhere down here, I will redo that. But I kind of measured it from where the throttle cable was before, so I just put it in the same spot. I just hooked up my gas line. Just need to mount the fuel pump, put that back on here, tighten the spark plugs, fill it with oil. Oh, and I still need to figure out the wiring, so after I put this fuel pump on, I need to figure out wiring next. Alright, I snipped off the plug from the other engine, and I'm going to just plug this in and solder the connection together. To me is the easiest. The colors line right up, so can't get any harder than that. But I'm going to tin the ends of these and put a nice shield on it. I bought shop.com and Walmart, my shop.com company website, had a 6% cash back a couple months ago, and I went on a little mini buying spree. So I bought this self-feeding solder gun. So we'll see how this works. Usually you hold the solder and then heat it up. So this supposedly is self-feeding. So I'm going to set that up, and not that it's a little overkill for this, but solder those ends, and we'll see if this thing runs. All right, here goes. I must say I'm actually a little nervous, so you know how I like the dramatic. So I am going to do this live, my first trying to start. Alright, I made this probably a little long, but there's the wires. I just connected them all together. It looks good. The starter tight. Airflow back. Tighten the spark plugs. Throttle cable's connected. Seems good. I do have to put this cover back on, but I'll do that once I make sure it's running. Fuel pump's on. We got gas, oil, and yes, of course, I have filled it with oil and checked it, so the oil is good. Oh, alright, I'm a little nervous, but let's see what happens. That is definitely a weak battery. I might have to come back after charging the battery up. I guess I should have left that on a charger. Alright, so I would say this is not running perfect at all. Alright, so I have struggled to start this engine at this point. Which is definitely disappointing. I would have thought it would start right up. Whenever all else fails, you know what happens. So let's see if that does anything. that definitely seems a little loud to me. So unfortunately, the engine I picked up may not have been the best engine. That's kind of a bummer. I don't know. I gotta figure out what's going on here.